Welcome to a new episode of Delphine Circle, where we uncover the mind, body, and spirit of success. Subscribe now for free to receive updates on the latest interviews. Then, sit back, relax, and tune in. Hi, John. Welcome to the Circle.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yay. John Rigney, you're the founding partner of Level 4 Business Management, a full-service entertainment business management firm providing services for writers, actors, musicians, directors, all the cool people. Your client roster reads like the Hollywood Who's Who list. Quentin Tarantino, Will Ferrell, Danny McBride, Samuel L. Jackson, Jim Carrey, Josh Hutcherson, Jenny McCarthy. I love her.
She's an interesting woman.
I can imagine, yeah. Do you just love what you do?
I love what I do, yeah. I get up every morning and I'm very thankful for it. Very grateful.
So give me the nuts and bolts. What exactly does a entertainment business manager do?
My daughter has asked me that many times, and she still doesn't know after all these years. So it's unique to the entertainment business. There is no such thing. Maybe a family office for wealthy individuals, it comes closest to it. But in the entertainment business, business managers handle all the business affairs of a given actor. Take Jim Carrey, since he's my longest client at 39 years. We handle his taxes, his insurance, his investments, his purchases, buying and selling houses, buying and selling airplanes, anything to do with business. If he goes over to Europe to do a movie, we have to get all the tax ramifications and help negotiate the contract vis-a-vis the tax laws, per diems, housing. I mean, there are so many nuts and bolts issue that are non-legal that we assist with, help the lawyers finish their jobs. We get in all the money, we pay all of his bills. But my office does all of that. And then what I'm left with is running the office, for sure, but then handling the client.
Yeah.
And whatever the client's needs are, whatever their problems are, end up becoming my issues to help guide them through whatever. A divorce, for instance, is a huge schism in someone's life. Helping someone through that is a really big deal. Or the purchase of a new house. I mean, it seems like, an easy thing, but it's not an easy thing at all. So
why is it that people in the entertainment industry are different, than somebody that's just a CEO of a major company? Why is their needs different and unique?
Everybody has a business manager. You have one. Guess who it is?
Me.
You.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have a wealth manager. We just made that joke. You have a banker. You have an insurance broker, right?
Mm-hmm.
You manage all those people. For an entertainer, he doesn't. He hires me, pays me an exorbitant amount of money, and he's good to go. Okay. He doesn't worry about the banker or the insurance person, and he hopefully doesn't worry about me. And so he delegates that responsibility to me, and that symbiotic relationship seems to work really well since I have a job still.
For 39 years with Jim Carrey. So do you interact with their agent? Do you have any, do you play any role in terms of the work that they're choosing or the jobs that they're being offered or anything like that?
No. In fact, somebody will write a script and they'll go, "Oh, read the script." And I'll go like, "No, I don't read scripts." And the reason I don't is because I don't want to have an opinion. Mm-hmm. And they certainly don't want to hear my opinion either. Because it would be counterproductive for me to have an opinion on their creative work.
We were talking about that. I said everybody in Orange County is a wealth manager. There's lots of really big wealth management firms. I was with BNY Mellon for years. They did an amazing job. They helped with, my lease, my divorce, my taxes, all that kind of stuff. So how is that different than what I would be getting from, Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley?
Don't know what your relationship with that person was. It sounds like it was a little above and beyond the call of duty, because my understanding of what they provide is, basically whatever they put in the contract is what they provide, which I do too. I provide tax work and I provide, insurance advice, but then I do whatever else comes up in their life.
Okay.
If somebody was doing all of that for you, I would say that's unique and above and beyond. And I've not really heard of it before from a company like that. But maybe at the end of the day, it wasn't that dissimilar.
Yeah.
But we're organized. We have about 40, I just counted them today, 44 people that have different roles in the company, like the insurance executive or the tax manager or the accounting manager or the administrative staff. And they kind of do the day-to-day work without being asked to do it. I mean, the client doesn't call up and go, gee, would you pay my bills this week? Or would you renew my insurance this week? We know what we're supposed to do and we do it. So the office is autonomous. It runs by itself, and which leaves me free to then do hopefully what I do better, which is handle the client and the needs of the client.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about when preparing for this, I was, thinking about the types of services I've had from my wealth management group. The entertainment industry is unique in that people can land a job and all of a sudden come into a windfall of money, right? It's like the money moves very differently, where you can have no money for a while and then all of a sudden you'll land a job and make a lot of money. And we've all heard the headlines and the things like, people coming into money and then all of a sudden they're broke and, all that type of stuff. What do you see are the biggest mistakes that people make in the entertainment industry specifically if they don't have a good business manager like you handling that type of funds?
Some of the more notorious ones, Nicolas Cage going bankrupt at the height of his career. Johnny Depp just recently had a huge and embarrassing lawsuit with his business manager. I knew both of their business managers, and they're very good people, and they do a very good job. The client ultimately gets to choose yay or nay on what they do. And this is all in the paper, so I'm not repeating anything that isn't public, but I think Johnny Depp was, buying $60,000 worth of wine a week, or like some outrageous number.
Yeah.
So he was spending probably as much as he made, so he wasn't saving. And then one day when his income dropped a little bit, he needed money, and he looked around and went, wow, where is all my money? And he sued his business manager and his lawyer. It was a real mess, actually.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage had
tax problems.
60. No, he might have had tax problems at the end, but he had so many houses around the world. He bought a house every time he went on location, and he accumulated them, and it cost a lot of money to keep them all up. And then at one point, when his income, if he took a year off and didn't make any money, he was broke. And, his business manager was a good guy, but probably victimized by the client is what I would guess happened.
So you can only give advice, but it's really up to the client whether or not they choose to accept the advice, right?
And how vigorously you give advice. I'm pretty vigorous. I'm kind of known for being a little too vigorous sometimes. So ultimately, your only weapon is to resign. If you're representing Nicolas Cage and he's going to go down in flames, you want to have resigned saying, I warned him and he wouldn't listen to me and I had to resign. It's hard to do because you have a very personal relationship with these people and it's very difficult to resign, but that's your only defense in the end. So most of the entertainers that have had the big problems, it's because of something intrinsic in their personalities. I could name many examples. There have been some stories about business managers who have taken money, stolen money from their clients and left them broke. That's not common, but it's happened over the years. Wesley Snipes, I think he decided that he had a way of not paying any income tax until he went to jail, right, for not paying any income tax. But he had in his own mind, he had a method, I think, of how to avoid paying taxes, but it didn't work. So
it's called jail.
The problem is if you spend up to what you make and don't save, that's good when you're making a lot of money. But if your series gets canceled and your income goes to zero all of a sudden, you've still got your houses and your cars and your employees, and you've got all this overhead, and people get in trouble very quickly.
Yeah, it
very
seems like
quickly.
that.
And some of my clients have been in trouble. I mean, it's not, I'm not immune to problems. Hopefully, few and far between. But
so tell me a little bit about. I'm obsessed with Jim Carrey. He's one of my all-time favorite actors. I think everybody's, right. He's just
mine too.
Yeah, he's a national hero in my eyes. You've worked with him for 39 years. That means probably since the first time he stepped on a stage, you were representing him. What's it like to work with a larger-than-life personality like that?
Interesting question. I represented Linda Ronstadt, 36-year-old megastar. And she said one day, "Hey, my friend, Jim Carrey, needs some help. Would you help him?" I went, "Okay, I don't know who he is, but fine." So they were dating for like 6 months. And still, to this day, he would claim that she was a very significant part of his life because she gave him advice that he has followed his whole career. So I met him when he was 21 and his clothes were all inside out because he just wanted people to ask him why his clothes were inside out. And we had lunch and some guy walked by the table and he goes, "Hey, Jim, I saw you at the Improv last night. You rocked." And the guy walked away and I went, "Wow, you're like famous." I still laugh at that story since I thought he was famous when he was 21. But he was larger than life then. He was the most talented man I had ever sat with at that time. And you could tell instantly that he was special. And to this day, he still is equally as special.
So is he good at listening to your advice?
Sometimes. Not always. But he's a very, very, very smart man.
Yeah.
He'll listen. He always listens to my advice. But that doesn't mean that he'll necessarily take it, or he might change it a little bit. He just did a Super Bowl commercial. I don't know if anybody saw it.
Oh my God, it was awesome. The Cable
good.
Man.
Yeah, it was really
It
good.
was so good. I was dyed.
It was really good. He actually had a lot of fun doing it, and it was a good thing.
I hope we see more of him because I feel like I can't get enough. I want him just to go back and redo other episodes of his past movie series, because not one of them do I feel like I've seen enough of. So could you tell him that for me?
I will. I told him I was coming, or I'll tell him that.
Yay. Well, maybe he'll watch it. Hi, Jim.
I'll make him watch this episode.
Oh,
sure.
Good. So Samuel L. Jackson, another big screen legend. Oh my gosh. Tell me about, what is he like in real life?
Okay. A quick story. I'm sorry to take
I want
so
a quick
much time.
story. Oh, please.
First time I went to meet him at his house, I knocked on the door and there was a box there, and I picked up the box to hand him the box. So we walked into the house and sat down, and this is literally the first time I met him. I had met him in a meeting. He hired me. First time I spent any time with him at all. He opens up the box as we're talking, and they're up. You know how they used to send out DVDs in advance of, the Oscars or whatever. And he goes, "Oh, I've got this one. I got this one. I said, "Yeah, I just bought a DVD player. I mean, that's how long ago it was." And he goes, "I'll give you the duplicates." I went, "Yeah, okay, sure, whatever." And cut to a month later, come to his house again, knock on the door, go inside, do our business. I leave and I get in the car, I start the car, and he comes running out of the house. He was, wait. And he gives me a box of the duplicates that
Oh
he had
my God.
organized for me and held for me since a month. So he said he was going to give me his duplicates, and he gave them to me. And I thought,
now that's
a
a man
good
of his
guy.
word. Yeah.
That's a good guy.
That's a good sign.
Says it and does it. I like that.
I like it too. What when you're working with these guys in terms of like, do they plan that their career could literally be over at any minute, or do they plan that I'm going to be working for another 20 years? I mean, when you're in the entertainment industry and you're a big star like that, do you think it's going to go on forever, or do you really kind of imagine that it could end tomorrow?
Both.
Mm-hmm.
In that business, you have to take the attitude that you're going to be the biggest star on the planet. I mean, it's part and parcel to being that guy, that star. But on the other hand, you can't run your business life as if that's going to come true mathematically. So you have to hedge your bet, even though you might, from a career standpoint, you might take the opinion that you're going to be the biggest star. But from a fiscal point of view, you have to be a little bit more
conservative. Yeah.
Conservative. Yeah. I think that's a good word. Most of the people end up firing me because we butt heads.
John, how could anybody butt heads with you?
Yeah. I've resigned from people because we butted heads. I've been fired from people. So it doesn't always work. But when it does work, it's a thing of beauty because, I mean, you're basically helping them plan everything about their life. Think about just the will, their estate plan, their kids, how to fund their kids, how to inherit money, how to teach their kids about money. I mean, there's so many personal aspects to this business that make it unique.
Mm-hmm.
The lawyer that does the estate plan doesn't have the same point of view or relationship with the client that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically need me to interpret the client's needs to them so they can write it down.
No, that makes so much sense. You're a very important person in their life. How much interaction, how much time do you typically spend with your clients?
These days, COVID days, not very much. I mean, Jim being the exception, we live 4 blocks from each other and we hang out once in a while. But I seem to text my clients a lot more than I used to. And everybody now calls me on my cell phone. But if I got 1 call a day, I would think that's a busy day because they only would call me if there were an issue that they needed to deal with. In their life, I try to organize it in a way where all the issues are taken care of in advance so that there aren't a lot of problems to be calling and talking about. Mm-hmm. So if I've done a good job, they don't need me.
Well, and I would imagine probably in the beginning when you're really starting to get to know a client, when you just take somebody on. Do you take on new clients now?
I would have to be. It would be something that I would have to be interested in.
Yeah. It would make sense. But you've got a very robust firm. You've got business partners that have been with you almost since the beginning.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. Since we were all kids together.
Oh, that's cute.
I'm about 10 years older than each of them. So I kind of hired them all along the way.
Mm-hmm. So do you guys pick, I think about sports agents, personality plays a big role in who's the right agent for a specific, athlete.
Sure.
Is that true with, if you guys have an actor approach the firm and somebody wants to be helped, do you try to think about, whose personality matches best with this? Or is that really not something that's taken into consideration?
It seems like it would, because personality is probably 99% of why you get hired or don't get hired.
Mm-hmm.
But if I get a call on an actor, I take the meeting. Mm-hmm. I don't go maybe my partner would be better at it. it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody calls me, they want me.
Mm-hmm.
And although some of my partners are better at some of the clients, and we do actually shuffle them around over time
Mm-hmm.
just to where they're better suited to be.
Now, I love Jenny McCarthy. We touched on her. She's such a vivacious personality, and it's funny because until I started doing this podcast, I didn't really realize how it really is quite a challenge to always keep your energy up and to really project that. And she's so amazing at doing that. Like, she always looks like she's in the best mood and she's so vivacious. Is she really like that in real life, or what's it like working with her?
Mm-hmm. The first time I met her, she was going out with Jim Carrey.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim says, "Oh, Jenny's from Chicago and John's from Chicago." I went, "Where are you from?" And she went, "Cicero." I went, "Fuck you, you're not from Chicago." and she goes, "Where are you from?" I said, "Kankakee." And she went, "Fuck you, you're not from Chicago." Okay. So that's her.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get. She's full blast, pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
And she's a riot.
I love it. Are women easier to manage than men?
No.
Do they follow direction better?
Follow direction it seems like the wrong wording.
Okay. Follow
me.
Advice.
No?
I
think they take advice. I think that it's a little, you have to put on a different hat when you're dealing with a woman, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little more difficult for me, but I think they follow advice equally as much.
Okay. That's good. I like to hear that. So when we were at dinner the other night, you told me a story that it stuck in my head because you said that there are, specific credit cards. You're very particular about how you like things to be done. And you said that there's, specific credit cards that you highly advise that your clients use. And sometimes they push back and they're like, "No, I want my American Express," or something like that. What are those? Give us the insider scoops. What credit card should we be using?
Everything in someone's life, I break it down to the most simple way of handling it. Their banking, the number of banks that they deal with, the bank they deal with, the number of accounts they have at the bank, the number of credit cards, the number of bills, everything in their life, I have to break it down to the most simple way of handling it. And it's really easy to explain to a client. To the extent I don't make a mistake, it's better for you. So if I have 12 credit cards, or if you have 12 credit cards, and I'm juggling them and trying to figure out how to pay them, and one gets lost in the mail, and I'm going to make multiple mistakes. To the extent you have two, I can make sure they both work and that you have what you need when you need it. That conversation usually works, except for the occasional Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom's or whatever, because they want to get all the sales.
Oh yeah, nobody's giving up their Neiman Marcus card.
And go back to women versus men. The women are much more difficult to get those out of their hands than the men. I mean, they're like, nope, you're not getting that card. I'm like, I'll get that card. It's just a question of when.
Yeah. So what about okay, I actually am obsessed with my American Express Platinum. I put everything on that because I love the points, right? I love the points. Do you collect points for your clients?
I do.
You do?
Well, we all do, yeah.
Yeah.
We use the American, now it's an American Airline MasterCard because, American at one point was a good airline to have points on. Every once in a while somebody goes, "I want United." And the problem is I can't help them with a United card. I can call and the American, they'll say, "Oh, it's level 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll help you fix the problem." So they were unique. They had a VIP section and they helped us. Most credit card companies won't even talk to us if we're not the client. So you can have a different credit card, but I can't help you with it.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering because I've got 2 boys and they're in their 20s now and they're always like, "Mom, my fast track pass has got some, can you call and figure out, It's always so difficult to try to manage somebody else's accounts, in my opinion, or at least it has been with my experience. Are companies, do they understand that celebrities have business managers and that they need to go through you? Or is it constantly a problem like it is for me?
100% a problem.
Oh,
They will
wow.
not deal privacy issues. They won't deal with anybody other than the client.
Wow. So do you just put on your Jim Carrey voice?
I don't know.
You
We
didn't hear it
we
here.
get it done.
Oh my God, John.
All
Okay.
righty then.
All righty
Let's move on.
then. All righty. We have some big questions that we do. We try to get to know a little bit more about the man. And one of the things that I find so interesting about you is that you are quite a diverse character. You have got a lot going on in your life, and we have a lot of things in common. We both love spirituality. Tell me a little bit about some of your daily routines.
I sleep.
That's something that most people in Hollywood can't say.
About 7 years ago, I was gifted transcendental meditation. So I learned it, and it was a big change in my life. From that day to this, pretty much every day, I do that twice a day. So the first thing I do before I look at my phone, before I put my glasses on, before I meditate,
Mm-hmm.
and I set a timer, and so I don't fall. Well, so that when I fall back to sleep, I can get up. And then in my office every day, it's kind of a funny joke about my office. At about 3:00, I shut the door and I take 30 minutes and I meditate in my office, just sitting up in a chair.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really changed my life. So of any daily routine, I would think that's the most important.
Now, when you got started in that, especially with somebody that works at the level that you do, most people say, "Oh, I tried meditation, and I can't quiet my mind. I have a very busy life." How were you able to get into that?
If somebody says that, it's literally true.
Mhm.
I understand that. But they didn't try long enough or hard. It's like, it's not something you have to try. It's just something you have to do.
Mhm.
To the extent you try, you probably are going to fail.
Mm.
You can't say, I got to think of nothing. I got to think of nothing. It doesn't work like that. But to the extent you just sit and be quiet every day, twice a day for a month, you're going to be more quiet. So eventually that's going to go away. And once that goes away, think of the ramifications of having a quiet mind.
Mhm.
And like I said, it's changed my life significantly, and it would for them as well if they stuck with it.
Wonderful. What about exercise? Are you a yoga guy or a runner or anything like that?
Yes, all of the above. I've incorporated Pilates into my life for the last 22 years and 6 months.
That's why you have such great posture.
Approximately. Yeah. Again, it's the basis by which I can go ride a mountain bike or go out and run or go out and do any other sport. Ski season. So I've skied the last 5 of the last 8 days I've been out skiing, and
Oh, I've
with
seen the pictures on Facebook.
with a lot of people that I had to show off for, so that I was skiing a lot harder than I normally do, and which requires a little more strength and makes you a little more tired, but it's more fun.
Yeah, you're an avid sportsman.
Yeah. So the Pilates I do on a regular basis, and then I do other sports to augment my physical routine. Like, for instance, now it's ski season. I snowboard, I ski, I backcountry tour, I ice climb, I snowshoe. Okay, so there are the weekends. And then in the summer, I mountain bike and climb and hike and do all the summer activities. I actually just mountain biked like 2 nights ago. I still mountain bike in the winter, but it's less fun.
I can see why you're still single. It's because you don't have time. When are you going to squeeze a dating life
get
in
to
there?
That question.
John, what is the purpose of life? Why are we here?
Well, anybody that actually knows the answer to that would be pretty unique. But I think everybody has an opinion, and I think that we're all born and we all strive. This is an ever-changing world and an ever-changing people, and we're here just to be part of that change and that evolution. It's like, maybe to me, it's like a goldfish bowl experiment, and some big guys sitting there going like, look what they're doing now. And so I think, our purpose is to be part of that grand experiment of evolution, of change, because we are changing constantly.
Yeah, I saw something recently that said that we're going to go through more change in the last 4 years in pretty much every aspect of our lives, every industry, than we have in the last 100 years.
I believe that.
So get ready, people. It's coming, right? We've got to be ready to move. Tell me about a book that's influenced you.
We were laughing before we got on because the book that kind of rocked my world was War and Peace. And whenever you say that to someone, they roll their eyes back and want nothing to do with it.
It's like Moby Dick. It seems like a book that's like, you got to be, it's like an adventure you got to be ready to take or something.
Definitely an adventure. It just spoke to me.
Yeah.
In a lot of Russian names, and it's, I don't know, 1,400 pages. It's a pretty sizable book, and it is not an easy read, and yet I couldn't put it down. And to this day, it's probably 30 years ago I read it. To this day, when somebody asks me about a book, that's the one that jumps out of my mind, because it just changed how I view literature. I went back and I read all of the Russian authors and all the Russian books, and some of them really were horrible, but some of them weren't. Some of them were interesting.
Interesting. Why is it Russia that fascinates you, or this?
Well, just because Tolstoy and War and Peace was a Russian author, and I just thought, well, if I like War and Peace, I'll love Brothers Karamazov. And I was like, I didn't, but I tried.
Yeah. Okay, good job. What is the most pressing issue facing our world today?
Divisiveness. I mean, we're going off the rails in two different directions. That's why I liked your last podcast. The gentleman, Tremino, he said, I'm running as a Republican, but I don't want to be a politician. I don't care about being a Republican. I don't care about being a Democrat. I just want to be a governor and make intelligent choices and decisions. And I think that, if you look around, not even in the United States, if you look all over the world, people are becoming polarized because they're choosing science over God or religion, or they're choosing, right-wing politics over left-wing politics. And probably that has always happened. But these days it seems to have gone so far that it's like there are issues cropping up in that divisiveness that didn't exist before. And we should definitely figure out how to fix that.
Yeah, we need to spend more time talking to each other and less time on screens. And it would be my opinion.
One way.
Tell me something that you used to believe, but you don't anymore.
What would be first and foremost in my mind is I was brought up in I went to a Catholic school. I was an altar boy, not molested, but I was an altar boy. And when I look back, sorry for anybody that's a Catholic out there, but when I look back at what I was taught in those days, the Mass was spoken in Latin. So we would sit there and not know anything about what was happening. And then we would go into school and we would learn about, if you don't go to confession during, Lent, you're excommunicated. Or if you eat meat on Friday, you go to hell. I mean, or if you're born and you don't get baptized, you're going to go to limbo. I mean, things that when I think back about, maybe they don't teach those now. I don't know. But in those days, they were like scare tactics to get you to do what it is they wanted you to do, which was become baptized and, toe the line. So all of that belief system, I don't believe anymore. I developed a spiritual aspect to my life, and certainly is close to being religious, but it doesn't have the dogma of any one particular religion.
How
So
did
I
you develop?
apologize in advance for anybody that I offended.
Oh, I think a lot of our guests have talked about that. We all kind of were raised with a certain belief system that was either what our parents wanted us to believe or our church wanted us to believe. And as we've moved on, you get more information and then you can make the decisions for yourself. So I think that's a valid way to think. But how did you come into it? Because I do know that you are a spiritual person and we've talked about that. How did you find that transition in your life? How were you introduced to spirituality?
I practiced spirituality long before I ever heard that word. In fact, I didn't hear that word until probably the mid 80s. But through happenstance, I did a lot of work in a spiritual sense. Do you remember Lindsay Wagner?
Oh,
She
yeah.
was the
Bionic
woman.
Yeah.
So she was my
Kids,
client.
you guys won't remember this, but
Yeah, she was my client in about 1987 or 1988, probably. And she was the complete dictionary, the complete book of spirituality.
Really? Interesting.
And she had a belief system that was a little more extreme probably than I ever got to, but she taught me so much, and I hung on every word she told me because it really interested. It spoke to what I had already believed and didn't know, but it was like a concise answer to all the questions that I had to that point. And then I started working with Jim Carrey about 1983 or 4, I forget. And he has a spiritual journey. He's much more spiritual than I am at this point, and he's much more well-read.
He's very articulate.
Very articulate when it comes to spirituality. So he and I share that, and we grow. I mean, I listen to him and I learn. Lindsay was a big influence in my life. And beyond Lindsay, I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy reading about it. And I pick and choose what I choose to then incorporate into my belief system.
Yeah.
So my belief system is different than anybody else's because it's mine.
Yeah. Good. Well, people do have the opportunity to influence us in certain ways, especially somebody that you really respect. And so it seems like you've had some great guides, mentors come into your life. You were born in Kankakee, Illinois? Kankakee.
Train pulls out of Kankakee. Never mind. It's a song. It's the only claim to fame.
Who sang that song?
Arlo Guthrie.
Well, there you go. Good old Arlo. But you attended college in LA, in Pasadena and at Cal State LA, getting your degree in accounting. How does a boy from Kankakee, Illinois, end up in the entertainment industry?
I'm writing a book about my life because things like happenstance have occurred to me which have altered my life dramatically on a repeated basis. So literally, I ask a woman, how do I get a job in accounting? She said, I don't know, ask my CPA. I go, okay. So she introduced me to her CPA, who I called, and I didn't know him. He said, go to the CPA Society. They have an index card box of jobs. So I went to the thing, and there were a couple of hundred cards in the box. And I pulled out one, and it was my old firm. And it said, female bookkeeper wanted at a business management firm. And I called them and I go, I'm not female, but I want to be a bookkeeper because I was finishing my AA degree and I wanted to get some experience before I entered my accounting portion of my degree. And I went down there that day and I got the job, and I was there 15 years, and I learned they were great people, great business managers. They were like my parents, and I had to ultimately choose to leave.
And this was an entertainment firm?
Just a mirror image of what I do now.
Wonderful. And I think I remember you telling me that it was more music oriented.
We had a big clientele in music. We had Lionel Richie and Tina Turner and Steely Dan and Warren Zevon and Linda Ronstadt and Emmylou Harris.
Oh my gosh.
We had a big clientele.
I can't believe you ever left that. That's pretty amazing.
Well, it's interesting because I left and none of those people went with me because they were all my boss's clients, but I did all the touring and a lot of the work. But then the music business kind of went downhill. And I was already gone. And I was in the motion picture business. So another opportunity for the universe to take good care of me. So it didn't allow me to keep my security blanket of music. It forced me into a different business. But yet then the music business went away completely. I mean,
what gave you the courage to go out and start your own firm?
Ignorance. Again, there are these moments of clarity that you don't really have a choice. And I used to drink and do drugs and party and have a really good time. And I was in the music business and I had 4 opportunities a night to practice and get really good at it. And I did. And it was just one party after another. And then I'd work all day really hard. And one day because I had a baby, I decided that I was done partying and I wanted to go home and be a father. And so I quit drinking. I had to, or I couldn't quit partying. And I was in an argument, as always, with my boss. And we were just yelling at each other, as always. And I spit on him. And the piece of spit landed right on his face. And I'm looking at him and I'm looking at the piece of spit. And I'm looking at him and I'm going like, I'm not doing this anymore. And he went, what? And I went, this. I'm not doing it anymore. And I went home and I told my wife, I'm leaving. And she went, what are you going to do? And I went, I don't know. She went, okay. And I went back and the next day and I said, I'm leaving. And starting my own business was really the only option because I was at a very classy firm and I was making a lot of money. And I really loved what I did. And I really loved my old firm. But I couldn't then transfer to another firm. It didn't make any sense. So with no clients, I actually started a firm with nobody. They actually called Jim Carrey in and fired him after a while and said, you should go with John. Because he wasn't really working at the time. And Jim just went, okay.
So the universe stepped in and helped you again. Look at that.
Yeah, again. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's why I was writing a book, because I want to kind of enumerate all of those happenstances and moments of clarity and epiphanies for my grandkids, because I think that if you you have a good spiritual practice, better things happen to you.
Yeah. It's funny, that reminds me of a comment that our guest, Robert De Laurentiis, made, the Zen pilot. He said, when something miraculous happens, once you're like, wow, I got really lucky. And twice you're like, ooh, I'm really lucky. And then he said by the 6th or 7th time, you start realizing maybe it's not really luck, but there's something else happening here. So it sounds like that's the experience you had. Not only has the business been very lucrative, but it's giving you a beautiful life, and you seem to be always doing some fun things. You pursue your passions of aviation, snow skiing, mountain climbing, marathons, traveling around the world. Let's talk a little bit about your flying, because that's a very unique thing and it's something that you're passionate about. How did you get started in flying, and where have you been able to go with that?
I got divorced in 1996, and I was very unhappy and depressed and feeling badly for myself and for my family, and it was just a bad time for me. And I had the idea, I mean, every young man, maybe every young woman too, but I'm a man, so I don't know, has the idea of flying. And when I was a kid, I'd look at all the pictures about flying, but it was so far off my radar, I never thought about it. But in those moments, I thought, oh, this will get my mind off of being depressed, give me something else to think about. And so I started taking lessons, and it just took over my life. It had a life of its own. And so from 96, I went out and I bought a single engine propeller airplane, and then a twin airplane, and then a bigger, better, faster twin airplane. And then recently, I bought a jet. And, that was kind of the culmination of a flying career. And jets were selling for pennies on the dollar, and turboprops were selling pretty solid still. So I swapped it out about exactly a year ago. And the transition into a jet was much, much, much more difficult than I had given it credit for.
In terms of the amount of training that you needed to get?
Well, I had 3,300 hours of flying, so I had a lot of training, but jet pilots are required to fly differently. And I had no idea. I didn't really appreciate that the equipment was different and that you had to have a different skill set, that the procedures were different. And I had COVID in December, and I went to class to learn to fly this jet in January. Big mistake. And literally my brain was inoperable. And they eventually asked me to go home, which was good. I shouldn't have been there. And then I took a bunch of lessons. I hired a pilot and trained in the airplane, and then went back and finished it, and it was fine.
And you've flown everywhere. I mean, I was looking at the list of places. What are some of the farthest places you've gone?
Well, the most unique trip is I flew to South America alone, and I flew down the West Coast, down to Punta Arenas, Chile, which is the furthest point on the west side of the Straits of Magellan. And then I flew around Cape Horn one day and flew back to Punta Arenas. So I don't think I know any other human being that's actually flown his own airplane around Cape Horn. And Cape Horn's only as big as this yard. I mean, it's a very small island with a weather station on it. So,
how long did that take you?
It was 250 miles from Punta Arenas, so it probably took 3 or 4 hours round trip. And the weather was heinous. Heinous. I mean, the wind blows up probably 100 miles an hour every minute of every day, and then it gets worse from there.
Oh my gosh.
It's really bumpy.
I got to introduce you to Robert De Laurentiis. You both seem to have crazy ideas about when you should fly.
Well, he flew over the Drake Strait, so he knows how bumpy and how horrible the weather is down there. There's a lot of ships on the bottom of that stretch of water because it's very, very, the weather is just terrible.
Maybe I shouldn't put you two together. I don't know. It could be scary. You are also an avid mountain climber, having climbed Mount Rainier, the Grand Tetons, Mount Whitney 20 times, and Everest twice. My God, man.
Okay. I climbed on Everest twice. I didn't summit either time, just to be clear. The first time I only bought a ticket to the North Col in Tibet. It was more of a introduction to Mount Everest, but I did so well that I felt cocky, and I felt like, oh, there's the top right there. I could actually do this. And so I spent the next year getting ready and tried it again 1 year later, and I got ill, and it was not a fun climb at all. I mean, I climbed high, and I had a lot of interesting experiences that not too many people have, but I couldn't get to the top. I got down to 132 pounds.
Oh.
I'd lost 28 pounds by being sick. And so I was so weak that climbing was really a difficult task for me.
Oh my gosh. Please tell me you're not going to try that again.
Oh no, it's gone.
Oh, thank God.
It's gone. It's like the marathon this year. I did yet another marathon. And I always say I'm not going to do any more. But if you do 10 in a row, they give you a sweatshirt that says LA Loyal. So I had to do 10 in a row. And I got my sweatshirt, incidentally. But I wore my tennis shoes by mistake. And to this, I mean, the marathon was in, I don't know, October. I still can't walk right because I wore these tennis shoes instead of my running shoes. I screwed up my feet so badly. So I may not run any more marathons. But then again, maybe I will. I don't know.
So what's left on your bucket list?
The funny answer is, and yet it's not really that funny, is to meet someone and develop a relationship, a female, and develop a relationship with. I don't know why that I even think that's funny. It's been 14 years and I haven't done much about it. So when you look at the bucket list, yeah, I could say that there's a lot of places I want to travel to, which I do, and I'm going to. COVID has, thrown cold water on that. But more importantly, I'd like to have a companion.
Yeah. All right. We're going to put it into the universe because the universe listens to you. So
Indeed it
from
does.
Your lips to God's ears.
Indeed it does.
Thank you so much, John. It's been a wonderful time having you as a guest.
You're welcome. It's been fun talking.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Delphine Circle. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free and it will help us keep these incredible interviews coming your way. Here are 2 other episodes you may enjoy. I'm Delphine. Welcome to my circle.